AI is taking over the world. Really? No, it's not. But AI is changing the way people that are buying managed IT services. And you need to know how to adapt your SEO strategy so that you can rank in 2026 and appear in large language models. So here's a sobering fact. In your market, there's 20 to 50 MSPs, and all of them are jockeying for new inbound leads in 2026. In the SERP, there's 10 spots available, and the first 3 get 60% of all the clicks. So the million-dollar question is, what is your MSP going to do to get to the top to receive all those inbound leads? So in this video, we're going to walk through the 7-step strategy that you can take to ensure that you're ranking your MSP in this coming year. Before we hop into the steps that are required, let's first back up and just set the foundation so we're all on the same page. First, what is SEO and why is it important? So SEO, or search engine optimization, conventionally refers to ranking in Google. 90+% of all search inquiries are on Google. Now, the asterisk with that is now in 2026, more buyers are using ChatGPT, Claude, and other LLMs to research different services. So SEO in 2026, really the emphasis is on the search part. So wherever your buyers are searching to gather information on your products or services, we need to show up. And so this means optimizing your site, yes, for Google, but also for these LLMs and other third-party data sources. Okay, so that's one slight change in 2026. Now, a lot of the same techniques for SEO is going to help you appear in ChatGPT and other AI tools, but there are some nuances that we'll get to later. The second foundation I want to lay is the importance of SEO for MSPs. So most MSPs are used to repeat referrals, and a repeat referral is the easiest type of customer to close. The next best thing to a repeat referral is an inbound lead from SEO. The reason why is because an inbound lead from SEO has cash in hand, they're already familiar with your brand, and they're reaching out to you asking for your services. Right? That is very, very different from an outbound lead that was booked through a cold call or an appointment setter. Now, there's nothing against that strategy, but in terms of the ease of closing a net new client, an inbound lead from SEO or paid ads is going to be the easiest. So that's why it's a really important strategy for MSPs to establish and to get in place first. Typically right after they've kind of maxed out repeat referrals, then we want to start to get into search engine marketing. The third foundation I want to lay out is, how does Google determine who should rank for a certain query? So let's back up a second and talk about what is Google's goal with being a search engine. And the simple answer is to satisfy the searcher. Google wants to give the searcher the information that they're looking for, the best information. And so there's two different things that Google's looking for, is who has the most topical authority and which page has the most topical relevance. So with topical authority, think of that like the websites that have the most content and information on a specific topical category. So for CRMs, HubSpot is one of the highest, most powerful websites on the internet relating to CRMs. They have tens of thousands of pages talking about CRM software and how it can be used and so forth. So they have a ton of topical authority. And then topical relevance, that relates to the specific page. Okay, now if you have a ton of topical authority, and if you write an optimized page that's in line topically with a search query, then you'll rank for it instantly. So for example, if HubSpot were to write an article on the best CRM softwares, right away, without really having to work hard, that page is going to rank at the top of Google. Now, if HubSpot were to write a page on the best dog foods for hyperallergenic dogs, that page is not going to rank on Google. Even though HubSpot has hundreds of thousands of pages on their website and is viewed as an expert from Google's perspective, since they aren't an expert in dog food, that page won't rank. And so you need to understand this and apply it to your MSP. For your website, you need to have lots of topical authority And then you need to have pages that are specifically designed for certain queries so that they match and they're very topically relevant for that query. Okay, those are the two things that we really need to focus on driving in order to rank your MSP. So now to get into the 7 steps. So the first step is to make sure that your website doesn't have any leaks. So think of your website like a boat, and it's in the water and it's traveling towards your destination, right? The top 3 in Google for you manage IT support in your city. Okay. Now, in order for us to make that journey, we need to make sure that your boat doesn't have any leaks. So there's a series of technical things that you need to check and to audit. And in the description below, I have a spreadsheet linked that has a full checklist of all the things to look for in Google Search Console or something similar. A couple of the key things that you need to be mindful on the technical side is making sure that you don't have any 404 errors. So there's no URLs that are leading to a missing page. If that is the case, you need to add in redirects. Making sure your website has a fast page load speed is really important. That's especially important if you're running ads and you're sending qualified traffic to your site. Having a website that loads slowly, that's going to cause people to bounce and to not actually take the time for your website to load. The last thing to mention is mobile responsiveness. So making sure that your website, as you scroll through it on mobile, there's not a lot of additional clicks that are required to get to different information. It's easy to navigate. Everything is optimized and structured properly for mobile, so fonts are the right size. There's not images that are cut out, different things like that. So a lot of the search queries that you're going to receive are going to be on mobile. So we want to make sure that we're catering for that platform. Next, there's a series of on-page items to check. Again, in the document linked in the description, I'll have a full list. A couple of the main ones to point out is that every page needs to have a title, an H1, and a meta description. And each page on your website should have a specific keyword that it's targeting. So, for example, instead of just having IT support, have IT support and then for your city or something similar. And making sure that keyword phrase is being used both in your title, your H1, your meta description, and then also throughout the content. In addition, your site needs to have a healthy structure and architecture. So think of your website as sort of like a tree where the base is the home page, and then there's branches that come off with different service lines and service categories. It's important, especially as an MSP, where your audience maybe isn't as knowledgeable with IT as you are. And so you want to make sure that it's easy for them to understand the different nuances of your offering. So for example, having your home page and then maybe having a cluster of pages that relate to cybersecurity with a pillar service page that talks about cybersecurity, and then sub pages that talk about network security, MDR, ITDR, different things like that. The second step is to ensure that your website is optimized for conversion. So the whole point of SEO and all these efforts is to bring in new customers and to close new deals. So you need to make sure that your website has call to actions that are positioned at the right places on every page, and that you're mentioning the call to action enough times. So in the hero, for example, you want to have a call to action to book a meeting. Towards the bottom of the page, you want to have one as well. And then we often recommend towards the middle of the page having more of like a middle funnel call to action, where you're not asking just for a meeting, but maybe you're offering a gated piece of content like a cybersecurity guide or a buyer's guide to manage IT. That way there's a few different call to actions per page, and maybe you're using one or two different call to actions to sort of test and see which is best for that viewer. The third step is to optimize your Google business profile. So making sure that you have the right service categories selected, making sure that you have your name, your phone number, and your address, that everything's correct. You wouldn't believe how many businesses have this wrong. And it's money that's being left on the table as a result of that discrepancy. Google views it as a trust signal when everything matches. Then Google will trust that, okay, this is the website and the business that they say they are, because their address, their name, and their phone number, everything matches. So make sure that that's all set up and correctly mapped. The second part with your Google business profile is you want to have reviews. And if you're watching this, and if you're like, I got only a handful of reviews, and my competitors have, 100 plus, that's okay. Because Google doesn't just look at the number of reviews, they actually look at the velocity in which you're producing reviews. So even though you may not have as many reviews as your competitor, if you're bringing in twice as many per week, that can really give you a leg up. We have clients that use different automation tools within their support tickets. So whenever a support ticket is completed, that individual receives a request to fill that person receives a request to complete a Google review, and then if they do that, then they'll get like a gift card or something to kind of incentivize them for their time. So that's something you can think about as well. Step 4, research your competitors. So what's really cool about SEO is you can spy on your competitors and understand what they're doing to rank in the top 3. And so we want to reverse engineer the things that they're doing and to understand what we like and what we want to take as part of our strategy, and maybe identify a couple gaps that they're missing that we could capitalize on as well. And that's one of the benefits of working with an SEO agency that focuses purely on the MSP space, is that we can take learnings from across the nation and then apply them to your business. So where if you're doing this yourself, there'd be a lot of extra trial and error that we've sort of already done and learned from in-house. One of the most important parts with the competitive analysis is understanding what keywords your competitors are targeting. There are dozens upon dozens of keywords that we could potentially target, and we need to make sure that we identify all of the possible keywords that we could target and then rank them based on value and ease of acquisition. A great example of this is I've seen keywords that have extremely high commercial intent that competitors miss because they aren't thorough enough in their keyword research. I won't say the exact city, but there's a major city in which we saw a lot of search volume for co-managed IT with very little competition for that specific query in that city. A single lead from co-managed IT could relate to hundreds of thousands of dollars in MRR depending on the business. So that's a great example of a keyword that competitor missed that we could capitalize on and easily acquire. All right, and that brings us to step 5, to develop and execute a content plan. So going back to the analogy of thinking about your MSP website as being a boat, in the prior steps, we made sure that the boat didn't have any areas in which water could leak in, right? So it could float and travel well. So now in step 5, think of it like we're putting up a sail so we can travel where we want to go. So the purpose of your content plan is to help develop topical authority and topical relevance so that we can rank your website. There's 3 main categories of pages that we need to build on your site. The first is service pages. So think of this like managed IT services, cybersecurity, cloud. If you do compliance as well, that could be a fourth. And these are the largest pillar services that your site would have. And then underneath those pillar services, you'd have sub-services. So this could be network security, MDR, different things like that underneath cybersecurity. Maybe under managed IT, it's help desk, reactive support, network support, different things like that as well. And so by having those primary service categories and then the sub-service categories, that's going to really help build out the full breadth of content on your site in terms of what it is that you do. Thinking back to the HubSpot example that has a lot of topical authority, well, that's because they have a lot of pages of content that relate to CRM. And so that in the same way, if there's any service that your business provides, you won't really want to have a page that talks about that service. Now, maybe it's not a dedicated page completely, but it definitely needs to be a part and on one of those pages. It's really important also to note that this first category of pages, your service pages, they need to be written in a way that can educate someone that maybe isn't as familiar with IT. Most of your buyers, they're not IT experts unless you're like in a co-managed situation. So write in layman's terms, focus on the pain points, focus on how you can help alleviate those pain points. And if there's differentiation between you and your competitors, definitely press on that as well. There might be some situations in which you'll also want to include an industry in that geo page as well. So an example of that would be in New York City. There's lots of law firms and financial service firms in New York City. So there are some keywords such as IT support for law firms in New York City that have enough commercial intent and volume where you might want to have a designated page for that. Now, that's a really great opportunity to capitalize on some of those longer tail keywords because those are going to be easier to rank for, but they have very high commercial intent. A law firm, for example, is going to be much more likely to spend a lot on managed IT and cybersecurity because of the nature of their business. The second category of pages on your website are geo pages. So with geo pages, these are leveraging some of the same service categories that you have in your service pages, but it's incorporating a city or a location with that as well. So an example of this would be managed IT services in Cincinnati. So it's the same, you're going to talk about the managed IT services, but then include Cincinnati in the URL. And that would be in your title and your H1 and also the body of your page as well. Make sure that you first do keyword research like we talked about in the prior step, so you know exactly what that keyword should be. But these geo pages need to be built up so you have one geo page that's for one city and for one service. If you're in a smaller city, you could have multiple services that you talk about on a single geo page. But if you're in a larger city like that has over, say, 1 million people within it, you might want to have multiple geo pages. So going back to the Cincinnati example, you'd have one that's managed IT for Cincinnati, and then maybe cybersecurity for Cincinnati, and then maybe cloud and co-location for Cincinnati. So those would all be clustered with Cincinnati, but they would cover the full breadth of your services. The reason why that's important to have the combination of both service and geo in the page is it tells Google, hey, I'm an authority when it comes to this service, and I'm located in this location. And that in combination with having your Google business profile optimized is really going to be a lot of wind in your sail to get you to the top of Google. So now you have your first category of pages, which is your service pages. You have your second category of pages, which is your geo pages. And now your third category of pages is going to be your knowledge base. So think of this like blogs, articles, guides, case studies, different assets like that. The nature of these assets are going to be a lot more with informational intent. And the purpose of these assets are to help support the main pages that we want to rank. So going back to the Cincinnati, Ohio example, say you have a managed IT Cincinnati, Ohio geo page. And say that was the only geo page that you had. Now, in our knowledge base, you'd want to have supporting articles that link up to that Cincinnati, Ohio page. So maybe you talk about managed IT pricing in Cincinnati, Ohio. Or you'd have 7 steps to effective cybersecurity for businesses in Cincinnati, Ohio. You know, different pages like that have some search volume that you can link back to that main asset. And the structure of this is going to look like a hub with spokes that come out of it. And essentially what you're doing is you're making a mini cluster of similar articles that are all around the same topic of managed IT in Cincinnati. So from Google's perspective, if Google looks at your business and you only have one page on your website that's managed IT for Cincinnati, you only have one, compared to a business that maybe has 20 pages that all talk about some aspect of IT in Cincinnati, who do you think Google is going to view as the authority with managed IT in Cincinnati? Well, the website that has 20 pages, right? So no, there is some art to this, right? You don't want to just randomly make pages. They need to have the pages need to target a keyword that does have search volume and that can fit into that topical cluster. Okay, but that's the way that you need to think about SEO for your MSP business. Is you have main pages that you're trying to rank, and then there's supporting pages that are going to help lift those up to the top of Google. One more thing that I want to say about the knowledge base is with case studies. So case studies might not be the best asset for ranking in terms of targeting a specific keyword, but they are very helpful with on-page conversion. So what we often like to do with our clients is when we have a page that we are ranking, at the bottom we'll have a few different case studies that they can click out to read more about how we've helped the business overcome a specific challenge and the financial outcome that our services had as a result. All right, step 6, build domain authority with backlinks. Going back to what we shared earlier, the whole purpose of Google is to satisfy the searcher's query. Google is very careful with which websites it shows on the first page. It takes into consideration the topical authority of the website and also the topical relevance of the page. And as we mentioned before, topical authority is built through having content on your website. Now, what also builds authority is backlinks. Think of backlinks like a vote of trust from other websites saying that your content is good and worth linking to. Backlinks are a key trust signal for Google, and they are a ranking factor. For most MSPs, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to rank for the key queries you want to rank for without having an effective backlink strategy. Now, there are some nuances with this if you have a very strong website already to start, or if you're in a market that isn't as competitive. But by and large, you're going to need backlinks to rank. So how do you get backlinks? Well, you can naturally get backlinks just from ranking content and then having people naturally link to that content. So for example, if you were to write a very good article on an MSP pricing guide, and if other websites link and reference that article, well then that article will naturally get backlinks. But one of the challenges with this is in order to rank, you need to have authority. In order to have authority, you kind of need to have backlinks. This is especially problematic if you're going against other MSPs that are using an SEO agency, because I can guarantee you that they're purchasing and deploying a very aggressive backlink strategy. So what do you do? Well, you can purchase backlinks, though I do caution that. To get started, I'd recommend executing a backlink strategy to naturally acquire backlinks using your network. Reach out to customers and partners that you know and ask for a mutually beneficial link exchange. So in the link exchange, what you would do is you'd write a piece of content that would go on their website, and you'd have a link that references your website. And then similarly, you have a piece of content on your website that links to their website. Now, this is mutually beneficial is because you get link juice from their website, and you'd be giving link juice as well. Now, you might think, well, if I'm giving link juice and receiving link juice, would the net be zero? No, not in the eyes of Google. There's a lot more value with receiving a link than value that's given with sharing a link with someone else. That's a very important concept to understand with SEO. With a link exchange, it's important that the link that's being given to you is placed on the right page and with the right anchor text. So for example, if you're an MSP in Cincinnati, you want the link on your partners page to link back to that specific geo page, because that's going to help rank your managed IT services in Cincinnati page that you're going for. Step 7, we want to expand visibility into AI platforms. As mentioned earlier, your buyers are using more than just Google to research managed IT service providers. They're using their favorite LLMs such as ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, and conducting different queries in that platform to identify who are the best service providers based on that LLM. It's vital that your business shows up in those platforms. To do this, we need to reverse engineer what's going on behind the scenes inside of the LLM. So what you'd want to do is take 3 LLMs, say ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and in an incognito browser, conduct a few different queries, such as top managed service provider in your city, or best managed service provider in your city, or something similar. And for each of those queries, note the responses that come back, but more importantly, note the sources that are referenced for those responses, and make a list of those reference sources categorized by each LLM. Now, this is going to tell you which pieces of information that LLM is using to make the determination of who to include in that query. This is the blueprint that we can then use to reverse engineer our own website and our own content to get your MSP into those LLMs. Take ChatGPT, for example. Oftentimes, ChatGPT will reference Clutch Yelp, and other major third-party listicles. And those are the listicles that it'll reference to determine who should be listed with that type of a query. So in order for us to get into ChatGPT's answer, we need your brand to show up at the top of those different listicles. Claude and Gemini are a little different with how they approach that query. Unlike ChatGPT that references Yelp and Clutch, Claude and Gemini, they often reference information that's ranking on Google. So to get your brand mentioned in Claude and Gemini, you can create content that ranks on Google, and then that platform will reference you. So take the best managed service provider in Cincinnati example. If Claude is referencing articles that are in Google and ranking for that query, say third-party websites, not Clutch or Yelp, then you could do the same by writing a listicle talking about the best managed service providers in Cincinnati, with yourself being number one, and get that to rank on Google. And then when that ranks, when someone conducts that same query in Claude or Gemini, most likely that platform will then reference your article, and then that'll get you in the top. So it takes work, it takes time, it takes a little bit of troubleshooting, but we've been able to effectively get our MSP clients to show up within these different LLM platforms through this technique. SEO takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. It's not. But the results are worth it. They are. On average, you can expect to see initial results in terms of significant rankings within 3 to 6 months. And oftentimes our clients start to close their first deals within 6 to 9 months. And the way to think about SEO, it's very different from paid ads. With paid ads, you spend the money and then it's gone. But with SEO, you're building an asset, right? This is content that lives in your website. These are backlinks that are forever pointing to your website. It's authority that you're building that will always stay there and it'll compound with time. So SEO is an investment. It's an investment for the long term. But when done correctly and when done properly, if you can rank your website in the top 3 positions, there's a whole world of business to be had. It is not unusual at all for a 6-figure deal to come through SEO. It just takes time. My name is Tanner and I'm the co-founder of DYAD. Appreciate you watching this video. If you have any questions about SEO for managed service providers, or if you need help conducting keyword research or with a backlink acquisition strategy, or anything at all related to SEO or websites or anything like that, let me know. We're happy to help, even if that's outside of a contractual arrangement. We just like to help people in general. So let us know. There's a link to my LinkedIn profile in the bio. Shoot me a message. Thanks.